Okay, so I did a top 10 worst games list of 2019 and 2020 combined. And now I'm doing the 2019 and 2020 best games also combined. And like I said in the top 10 worst games list, I'm combining them because really I've only really played or liked one game from 2020. There were a bunch of games that I tried or watched reviews of and didn't end up liking as much as I expected. So I talked a bit about those games in my top 10 worst games. So now I'm just gonna go into the top 10 best games from 2020 and 2019 combined. At number 10, I have Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD. And yeah, really, it's just honestly, it's kind of like a simple port. Like it seems to be very similar to the Wii version from back in the day. But I've never played it, and it's technically an HD remake. So I thought, let's count it. Let's just put it at 10 because it's not very new, but it was new to me, and I had a lot of fun with it. There was a lot of challenging levels, a lot of fun level design. There were some levels that I had a lot of trouble with, but it was never too frustrating. It was always really fun. The game was short overall, and it even had some multiplayer modes that I didn't end up really playing, but they seem fun. I'd like to try them sometimes with friends. And apparently, isn't even one of the best Monkey Ball games. Apparently, the ones on the GameCube are a lot better. There are a couple of others that are apparently are a lot better. So I'm a fan. I would say now, and I definitely would want to try the other games sometime. I thought it was a good start. I got it at a decent price for my Switch and had a lot of fun with it. At number 9, I have Tetris 99. I always got very impatient with Tetris, and like my attention span was always kind of short. It's just like very long levels. If you want to get your own high score and stuff, you just play for a long time. And Tetris 99 was really perfect. It's probably my favorite Tetris game because it's simply just very short battles. Even if you end up being in the top three or whatever, it's still pretty short because at the end of the day, you're trying to kill off other opponents rather than get a high score yourself. I think I got third a couple of times and like in the top five a couple of times. And I think I got second one time. I never won. I've never won with Tetris 99, so that's a bit disappointing. But also, I didn't play it that much, like 10 to 30 hours or something like that, which is a lot, I'd say. So yeah, fun game. Then at number 8, I have Race Die Run, or hashtag Race Die Run, I should say. It's in the title. There's a hashtag in it. It's pretty funny. It's a very small indie game. I haven't heard anyone talk about it. I just saw it on the Switch eShop, which back in like 2019 it was still kind of doable to like scroll the eShop page and find some hidden gems. But nowadays I just kind of gave up because there's so many games on the Switch and they're all not that great. But yeah, Race Die Run is one of those games that if you look far enough on the eShop back in 2019, you would see it, and it's really fun. I think it was only like €8, and I got it in a sale for like €4 or something. So that wasn't too bad, and that was nice. But basically, it's like yeah, you sort of go in a racing vehicle. It's a bit futuristic looking, but it has like obstacle courses. You have to basically go on an obstacle course of sorts, and there's just a lot of things in your way. You have to like dodge them, and it's just I guess it's kind of tough to explain with like it. There's also like an indie game called Raced that's a bit similar in a way. It's also like a sort of racing obstacle course kind of thing. There's no real opponents in it. It's just your own vehicle and just obstacles. But I really liked it. I liked the music in it. I liked the atmosphere, and it was cheap to buy. Yeah, fun game. Then at number 7, I have Call of Duty Modern Warfare. If you've seen my top 10 worst list, then you've probably seen that it's in the top 10. It's a little bit of a spoiler. It's in the top 10. So it's both at number 7 here at my favorites of 2019 and 20, but also in the top 10 of my worst games. And that's pretty much because I liked it at first a lot. The gameplay was great, the levels are great, the weapons are great, and I had a lot of fun with it, and they mentioned beforehand that there was going to be free additional content spread out over time, but they kind of lied about it. A lot of the content has been behind a paywall. You have to subscribe to their subscription thing, and that kind of ruined it for me. A lot of the new content hasn't been that great either. But because it was pretty fun at the beginning, and I would go back to play it again because uh, it's one of my favorite Call of Duties, I would say. I always liked the Modern Warfare type of games, and it definitely reminded me of that. And it was fun overall. So it's worth it at number 7. I mean, I guess I would probably recommend Tetris 99 and Race Die Run over it because those are either free or cheaper, a lot cheaper. But when it comes to how much fun I had, I guess I did have a lot more fun with Modern Warfare. I think I played it for over 50 hours, maybe even more. I played it a lot, definitely. And at number 6, I have Ori and the Will of the Wisps. And that is the only game that I ended up liking from 2020. And that's the whole reason I ended up combining the 2019 and 20 games. Because, I thought let's maybe include some games that I kind of disliked and make like a top 5 or whatever. But Ori would be far and away at the number 1 spot from the 2020 games, and it would be the only game that I really liked. So it was more fair to compare it to the 2019 games, so I could really see where it stacks up with the other games. And I'm surprised in a way that it's only at number 6, and that's really because the top 5 of 2019 was really good. But it's also because there are a lot of things that I preferred of how the first game was. Ori and the Blind Forest. I really liked the combat in that because you had to like shoot sort of beams from from Ori, like basically, and that was fun. But in the new game, you had like equipable items, sort of like a hammer and like a sort of like a light sword, and that at first felt better, like it was more in depth combat. But really, I like the simplicity of the first game. I like that it had like more rangy attacks and that was kind of the only attack. And I thought that made it unique from other Metroidvanias, that it wasn't very combat focused, that it was very simplistic. I like that. And I really like that you have to create your own save points, your own checkpoints in or in the Blind Forest. You have to really make a decision on the spot, like, is it worth my energy points to make a save point here, or can I do it without it? And that was really fun. You had to really learn over time how to go about that. But in Ori and the Will of the Wisp, they got rid of that, and that's unfortunate in my opinion because I really liked it. I also thought the unlockable abilities in Ori and the Will of the Wisps, the best ones you got like way at the end of the game. And honestly, a lot of the hidden items that you would get because of those very late abilities, you can actually get by exploiting the game a bit, and that was really weird in my opinion. I felt like the original Ori and the Blind Forest had a lot more tight level design and world design, but in Will of the Wisp you could like jump through vines and stuff and then make your way up as well, and that was just really weird. I don't think you're supposed to do that in a Metroidvania. I don't think you're supposed to go out of your way to go through vines or whatever and go up there. I think it's really the most fun when you have to backtrack, when you have to get an unlockable item or ability and then go back to where you couldn't go before. That's what makes it fun in my opinion. I like backtracking, and of course it still had backtracking, but like there were just moments where you could break the game a little bit, and that was weird. And also they added a lot of characters, and of course that gave it more of an identity. It made the game more alive. But you had to keep going back to those characters. You had to go find them and do all kinds of side quests for them, and that isn't really what I like in a Metroidvania game. I mean, when I say that, I mean I mostly just like Metroid games. When it comes to Metroidvania games, it's pretty rare that I like a Metroidvania indie game because really I'm just trying to look for a Metroid replacement game, I guess. And that doesn't mean that if it's not exactly like Metroid that I will dislike it, because the original Ori and the Blind Forest was very different from a Metroid game, but it also did a lot of things well that I liked from the Metroid games. And I feel like Ori and the Will of the Wisp got more of its own identity, but in a way that I didn't really like as much. And I still loved it. That's why it's at number 6. I love the game. I enjoyed it a lot. but definitely not like the original Ori and the Ori and the Blind Forest. I I mean, the original Ori and the Blind Forest would probably be at number one in this list. So that's saying something. I think that Ori and the Blind Forest is at number one here, but Ori and the Will of the Wisp is at number six here. Of course, Ori and the Blind Forest isn't on this list. It's a way earlier game, and but yeah, I just preferred the first game, and uh, I even thought of doing a full review um, of Ori and the Will of the Wisp because there's so many things that I didn't like as much as the first game, but I think I've said pretty much everything I needed to say about it. Um, I liked it a lot, but not as much as Ori and the Will of the Wisp. But I still liked it a lot, and I kind of expected it to be higher in the list as well. Number six is lower than I expected. It's just a very good game. I would recommend it to everybody, but not as much as I would recommend the original Ori and the Blind Forest, which is cheaper as well, and both are on Xbox Game Pass. I very much recommend them. But like I said, especially the first game. Oh, also, Ori and the Will of the Wisp, it was a lot longer. Uh, I think it was like twice or three times as long. And yeah, I guess I prefer it to be shorter. Like Metro type of games, Metrovanias, they usually aren't that long. I thought the story was a lot deeper in Ori and the Will of the Wisp, so that was definitely nice. But also, I didn't mind the simplicity more of the first game. Oh, and Ori and the Will of the Wisp had a lot of uh, boss fights that the first game didn't have. I really liked that. I like the boss fights aspects, and there were a lot of scenes where you out of nowhere there was like a giant beast, and that was fun. I like that, but I still prefer the first game. Then at number five, I have Link's Awakening, and I have played the original Link's Awakening on Game Boy before. I played it on my 3DS, and I got pretty far. Like I think there are 8 dungeons, 8 I think, yeah, and I think I did like 5 or 6 on the original Game Boy version, but it took a lot of struggle to get there. There were a lot of moments where I got stuck, and the world design is not the greatest. It's very cryptic. Um, and the screen is so small on the Game Boy, so it was hard to navigate. Plus, it just looked very outdated. The Switch version is so pretty compared to it, and it really helps. The screens are bigger, but also I lost my save file on my 3DS. I had a save state made when I had like still 3 hearts and accidentally opened it, and it's so weird how that overrides your actual save state from the actual game. It's really weird to me. You'd think that'd be the opposite way. Um, but I wasn't too upset about it because I didn't really enjoy the original Link's Awakening all that much anyway. But now the HD version, I liked it a lot. And honestly, I think I would enjoy it even more if I've never played the original version. The original version is just so outdated. And it's pretty impressive for a Game Boy game. And the new version has all the same charm, in my opinion, but it's just so much more modern. The screen is bigger, the animations look a lot cleaner, the combat is a lot better. It's so much easier to navigate. You can equip more items at the same time. The HD version is great. I'd recommend it to anybody who likes Zelda games, who maybe just like me never got around to finishing the original game. This game will really change your mind and make you a lot happier about the game. Just overall, I think it's rare that people will prefer the original version. I guess a lot of people might be nostalgic for the original game, and then of course you can just go back to that. But it's definitely worth trying the remake, and in my opinion, it's a lot better and it will improve your thoughts on the game. Then at number four, I have Pokemon Sword and Shield. I go really back and forth, but for a while I thought this was my favorite Pokemon game ever. Now, probably my favorite Pokemon game ever is probably the first generation, Red, Blue, and Yellow, and Fire Red and Leaf Green. Those games are probably my favorites because it's just the first games that I started with. I started pretty late, but I just thought like let's go through it chronologically. Yeah, those were probably my favorites, but I really love the additions they had in Sword and Shield. I love the new Pokemon. I love the area. It's super awesome that it's based on Great Britain or United Kingdom, whatever. Uh, I love the music. I love the characters in it. They're really fun. The wild area is great. Looks a bit ugly, the wild area, but that doesn't really matter to me as much. It just seems like you can catch 80% of all the Pokemon in the wild area already. And I think you can get there after like one batch or something. You can go to the wild area pretty quickly. And then you could just assemble your team as long as you look long enough. Uh, like some are just really rare, but eventually you'll find them in the wild area. And I think that's perfect. That's really fun that you just can get Pokemon so early on in the wild area instead of having to be at like one specific route way later in the game. And not only that, if you end up getting a Pokemon way late, because like I got a Snom pretty late in the game, like after 6 or 7 badges. It was just in the local route there, and that evolved into a Frostmoth, and that's like one of my favorite Pokemon ever. It's really cool. And usually with the normal Pokemon game, I wouldn't really end up using it that late in the game because there's so many moves that you might have missed. There's sometimes you can collect like hard skills and go to a move tutor and relearn one move. But in Pokemon Sword and Shield, you can just go to a move tutor and relearn every move that you missed, and that makes it seem like you've trained them from the beginning. That's it's such a cool addition. I really like that, and that for a while now was like a big reason why I might have enjoyed this game more than any other Pokemon game. But I think the Generation One Pokemon games are still my favorite. But it's close. It's definitely close. And you'd think that ranking this Pokemon game at number 4 from the 2019 list would be pretty low. And yeah, it is. But the top 3 is just are just games that I enjoyed even more. And also, I wouldn't say the Pokemon games are ever like my all-time favorite games. They're just games that I always really enjoy. They're always consistent. They're always what I'm looking for in Pokemon. But they're never as good as a Zelda game, as a Metroid game, as a Mario game, whatever. They're never quite that level for me. That's totally okay with me because Pokemon is like a yearly release, and I really like that because oftentimes you're like waiting for 4 or 5 years for the new Zelda and Metroid game. So I really enjoy that Pokemon just has a consistent release schedule and that the games come out often. There's a lot of remakes often. Well, because like I said, you always have to wait a long time for the new Zelda game and whatever. And so yeah, Pokemon is never going to be super high for me, but it's always great games to play, and I enjoy that. Another Pokemon game that I really enjoy was Pokemon X and Y. Uh, I was pretty new to Pokemon at that time. Like I just had played like Gen 1, 2, and 3, I think. And and then Pokemon X and Y came out and I was like, yeah, let's just try it. And because it was so much more new and it was finally in like 3D for the first time, that made it at that time feel like my favorite Pokemon game too. So I think like at the like let's say like an S tier of the Pokemon games, I have Gen 1, X and Y, and Sword and Shield. Those are my favorites. But really, the other generations aren't that far behind because they're all pretty good. And at number 3, I have Mario Kart Tour. That's probably very surprising because I've seen a lot of people, they tried it for a day and they didn't enjoy it because there's not much depth to the gameplay and it's very simplified and it has a lot of gacha elements, a lot of microtransactions. But me personally, I really enjoy that. Mario Kart Tour might even be like my favorite Mario Kart ever. It's probably not, but I think it is sometimes because there's, I mean, think about it. There's a new Grand Prix every 2 weeks, so every 2 weeks there's new stuff to complete for me, which another Mario Kart game doesn't have. You complete the games in a couple of weeks, and then there's just no new content. And the fact that Mario Kart Tour has new Grand Prix every 2 weeks, that's just perfect. I mean, they don't add new levels every 2 weeks or whatever, but they switch up the levels at least. And they add a lot of new characters every once in a while. And it's gonna be pretty tough to collect all the characters, all the high end rare characters. It's gonna be tough to collect them all, but that's the fun in it, in my opinion. I haven't I haven't really spent money on it. I do pay for the monthly subscription every year, but really that comes down to like the price of one video game every year, which is a little expensive, not gonna lie. But I play it every day or daily, so I think it's kind of worth it. But you can play it without the subscription even. Uh, but definitely don't buy the loot boxes like the gacha things. That's very overpriced. Don't do that. And it's also not worth it because like when you're saving up your rubies to eventually buy new characters, that's really fun. A lot of the times there's like a banner with a new character, and you can get that character alongside with other high-end characters, and like for 45 rubies you can do 10 pulls, and in total in that banner there might be 50 or 100. So the smart thing to do, I've eventually figured that out, the smart thing to do is to save up your rubies. If you get 225 rubies, you can do a full 50 banner, and with 450 rubies you can do a full 100 banner. 450 rubies, probably it will take you like 4 tours, I'd say, and that's basically 2 months. So you have to be really patient, but it's definitely worth it because if you just pull whatever you feel like, and you just like whenever you get like 45 rubies and you do a 10 pull at once, if you don't get that character, then you're going to be upset and you didn't get what you want. But by saving it up to get the 225 or 450 rubies, you can basically dictate entirely which character you're going to get. If there's a banner and you want that character, you're just going to get it because you've saved it up. And ever since I realized that, it's become really fun because I just save up until I see a character that I really want. You have to be smart about your rubies, and that's a lot of what makes it fun. And it's just grinding and leveling your characters. You can do like an auto play mode, so you don't even really have to play it. You can just let it sit in the back and let it level. But there's also daily challenges that you have to really do, and you get rubies from it and money to buy characters and parts in the shop. And it's just so much fun. Like I can't believe so many people dismissed it because it's not like a traditional Mario Kart. Honestly, especially because there were always a lot of handheld Mario Kart versions. Super Circuit for the Game Boy Advance, Mario Kart DS, Mario Kart 7 on the 3DS. Honestly, this is so much better than those games. It's just really what you want from a handheld game. It's just very pick up and play. You can always play it, and it's so casual. It's super fun. And yeah, definitely, I hope they use the new characters they added in the new Mario Kart. I mean, actually, I hope the new Mario Kart becomes a Nintendo Kart, but that's a topic for another day. Um, but yeah, it's a very great game, and if you haven't tried it or you've tried it for a couple of days and you didn't enjoy it, the game is pretty different now. The game has added so much content. At the beginning, there weren't maybe like 20 characters, and now there's seriously it's tripled or quadrupled or even more. There's so many characters. It's a lot of fun. It really is. And the funny thing is, I don't even try to collect characters that much anymore. At the beginning you want to collect as many characters, but now I'm trying to just upgrade my characters because you can level them until level 7, and you have to use tickets to level them. And now I'm just really saving up those tickets to level the characters that I'm already using. Use I'd rather make my already existing characters better than unlock new characters and have to start from the beginning, basically. But it's if that character is going to be useful in the ranked cup, then it's definitely worth it to get a new character. It's not like it's not worth it to start with a new character. That's not it though. Um, but it's just funny how a lot of people were talking about how it's going to be toxic because of the gacha elements, and really, I don't really even use the gacha element that often. I really just save up my rubies until I get something that I really want. And you'll figure that out on your own very soon when you start playing. Okay, at number 2, I have Ukulele and the Impossible Lair. I didn't enjoy the first Ukulele that much because that game was basically trying to be a spiritual successor to Banjo Kazooie. Um, and I really liked the first Banjo Kazooie game. I tried Banjo Tooie, And I'm probably gonna finish it someday, but I'm already not enjoying it as much because it's a lot bigger and grander. And I really just liked how the Banjo Kazooie levels from the first game, how it had only 100 notes and 10 jigsaw pieces, 10 jiggies. That's really the only things you had to collect. And it's in relatively small areas. For a Nintendo 64 game, they were big, though. But it's relatively small, and it's just really fun to collect all the notes. And those notes really get you to go into the direction of the jigsaw pieces. And yeah, Banjo 2 is just way too big. There's too many collectibles. And unfortunately, Ukulele did the same thing, which is just funny to me. Like, I realized that the first Banjo Kazooie was kind of small relatively because of the limits of the hardware. Yet it's funny that I do prefer it. Like, it's just funny that that game would have never existed like it was if it was made for like the PlayStation 1, for example. It would have been way bigger. And the fact that it is smaller makes it more enjoyable for me. So yeah, that's just funny. And that's why I don't enjoy Ukulele and Banjo 2 as much. And that's also why I don't enjoy Mario Odyssey as much. Mario Odyssey feels to me like Banjo 2, which is especially weird because it's supposed to be a Mario game. So like, why is it focused on collecting and not platforming? You know, it's I guess it's a discussion for another day. But I love Mario 64 and Mario Sunshine because it's such a perfect combination of collecting and platforming. And then Mario Odyssey focuses purely on collecting, and the levels aren't really as exciting as a Banjo Kazooie level either. That's just weird to me. Like, what is the trend with 3D platformers being super grand and with lots of collectibles? That's not what I enjoyed from 3D platformers back in the day. Like, it really, I'd say Mario 64, Sunshine, Galaxy, and Banjo and Kazooie, the first one, those are my favorite 3D platformers, and they all aren't that big in scope. They're all platformy and still some collectibles, but mostly it's just a platformer. And what is with the new style of 3D platformers where it's just such big collectathons? So that's why I don't enjoy Ukulele, the first one, as much. Definitely, I enjoyed it more as soon as I realized that it's probably more worth it to not get every collectible. At first, I tried to get every collectible, and there's just way too much. I think there's 250 feathers, and then 25 um, pages. That's too much in my opinion. It's super perfect how in Banjo Kazooie it's 100 jiggies, 10 jiggies, and 100 notes. That's yeah. I don't enjoy how Ukulele went about it, but as soon as I realized that maybe it's better to not collect everything, I enjoyed it more. Okay, but fast forward to now, Ukulele in the Possible Lair is inspired by Donkey Kong Country, and that's way better in my opinion. The Donkey Kong Country games are a lot easier to nail, I would say. Like, it's just focused on platforming. Um, the collectibles, they really it's pretty obvious when you're playing a platformer that the collecting, like a 2D platformer, that the collecting is not priority as it would be in a collectathon 3D game. Um, so yeah, the platforming in Ukulele and the Possible Lair is perfect. The music is great, like amazing even, and it's even on Spotify. I listen to it daily. There's music from David Wise, who composed the original Donkey Kong Country games. There's music from two other people who are also just as great. And something that I really enjoyed about it is how you could go to the final level as soon as you want. It even is the first level. Like, you boot up the game and you have to do the impossible layer right away. But you're gonna fail because you're not ready. And from then on, you can do it whenever you want. And basically, every level or like every achievement you obtain, basically it was, you get a little B. And I think, yeah, whenever you finish a level, you also get like one of those Bs. And I think basically you end up having 30 in total if you get every one of them. And you're really going to need all of them because that means you can take 30 hits. And you get so many hits in the impossible lair. Like, I just can't do it without extra lives from those Bs. I just can't. And even then, I barely made it. Like, I think I tried maybe 100 times. Like, it's so, like, impossible lair. That's an accurate name for it. It's really hard. It's really impossible. But I finally did it. barely, with like enough of those little extra life bees left. Um, and yeah, all the levels in Ukulele in the Impossible Lair are really fun. The overworld is fun to navigate through. It's really it feels like a Donkey Kong Country game. Like it's just the same quality in my opinion. It's really really good. I would recommend it to anybody who's into old school 2D platformers, into Super Nintendo games, into Donkey Kong, or even Banjo Kazooie, because like that's the fun thing. Yuka and Laylee, in whatever type of game they are in, they're still the same characters. They're still gonna have the same type of personality, and I think that's great. I think honestly the next game that Playtonic, the developers of Ukulele, are gonna make is gonna be a kart racer like Diddy Kong Racing. Like they can just really do whatever they want. They're not like, the funny thing with Rare back in the day is that you had Banjo and Kazooie, who are solely platform 3D platform characters. They were only in Banjo Kazooie, and of course in Banjo was in Diddy Kong Racing. But then you had Diddy Kong, who had a racing game, and then you had Donkey Kong, who had 2D platform games. Those were the Rare games developed by Rare. Um, but I think it's great how the developers from Ukulele use those characters in all types of games. Like at least it seems that way. I don't. They might go back to do a 3D platformer, an open 3D platformer like Ukulele, the first one, but I don't think so. I think they might do another 2D platformer because they did have a lot of success with it. It was a great game. And like I said, I think they're just gonna do a kart racing or maybe even a fighting game or whatever. They can really just do whatever they want with those characters, and I love that. I think that's super exciting. I literally cannot wait until they announce a new game in the series, because it can just be whatever, and that's super fun. And at number one, from the top 10 best games of 2019 and 20, in my opinion, is Creature in the Well. And Creature in the Well is an indie game about basically you're a character who gets kind of lost and ends up in a desert, and there's like a huge factory and certain levels that need to be finished. Basically there's sort of like a boss at the end of every level, and you have to like, but basically you have to select a switch on every of the levels to activate something, and if you've activated it all, then it unlocks the final boss, and you can um, help become that factory basically like it used to be or whatever. The story is a bit fake, to be honest. Like I'm telling it like it's fake, but it is kind of fake. But the gameplay is amazing because yeah, you basically have like a baseball bat or whatever. I mean, you unlock new equipable items, and it can be like a sword or whatever. But basically, you have like an energy baseball bat sort of thing, and there's like energy balls that you have to knock back, and it feels a bit pinball like. And yeah, you have to just kill enemies with that energy ball, and the more you load it up and the more you hit it, the stronger and faster it goes. And the gameplay is just super amazing that way. It is one of the best indie games that I've ever played. And honestly, it's just hard to describe what it is. It's just really tough to explain what a game is when it's a bit niche in a top 10 video. Like if I did a full review, I would go about it in a different way, of course, but now I'm just like, I want to just talk about why it's fun. And I think most people who listen to this have known and heard about this game, so. And everybody, of course, they can do their own research, just look up a trailer and you'll get what I mean. It was free on Game Pass when I played it. Like I had a lot of things to play and I wanted to wait until it was a bit cheaper, and then it was just free on Game Pass, so that was perfect for me. But since then it hasn't been on Game Pass anymore. But I mean, it has sales a lot and it's relatively cheap, I think. But yeah, the gameplay is just super tight, and I got all the achievements. They were very doable, except for one or two. I looked those up because they were really fake. But other than that, they were all very doable. Yeah, I basically 100% of the game. It was super fun. So yeah, basically, it's sort of like a dungeon crawler, and it's even described as a pin brawler, even by the developers, because basically it's a bit hack and slash, and it feels that way for sure. Like it's a very action paced dungeon crawler game, but it's based on pinball, sort of. It's super unique. Like I saw the trailer in a Nintendo Indie Showcase, and I was just kind of in love right away. Like it looked great, and I wanted to play it. And I was really lucky that it was free on Game Pass, because that made me just try it on day one when it was on Game Pass. Very early on, even I think the game was like 3 weeks old when it came to Game Pass. Very early on, and that was really nice. Yeah, and it's funny. It's just it looks very action based and hack and slash like, but there's also a lot of puzzling. There's a lot of rooms where don't you aren't sure what to do, and you just have to figure it out. You have to just figure out what the solution is, and it's just super fun. Like honestly, I can talk about it all day, but I just think everybody needs to play it. It's amazing. It's one of my favorite indie games ever, and it's not too expensive. It's $15, and I mean I recommend it at full price. I think it's very cheap. Um, but if you can find it for like $10 euros or maybe even eight or something, then definitely do it. Like it's super worth it. Something else I really liked about it is that you can find clothes to wear or items, and those will get you like a certain ability. Yeah, I mean, I sort of don't want to spoil what the abilities are of some weapons, but most of them they just add stats. Basically, they make you stronger or whatever. But some of them later in the game they give you cool abilities that make the game a bit unique, and that's a nice change of pace in my opinion. I was pretty sold on it right away, and uh, then I just tried the game, and it was way better than the trailer even looked. When I would recommend indie games, this is always one of the first games that I would recommend, but it's really unique, and that makes it hard to explain why it's fun. Yeah, so those were my top 10 favorite games from 2019 and 20 combined. I also have the top 10 worst games from 2019 and 20. I made that video. It should be up, and I am gonna do my most anticipated games. I'm gonna make that video pretty soon, I think. Maybe even today, I don't know. Yeah, look forward to that and watch the top 10 worst games too. And I'll see you in another video.